Alright folks, you've returned. Let's start chapter 3 of Shear Murder. Painful grief seems to be central to this case, Matthew. Broken hearts are a powerful motive for murder. Matthew, I've just discovered Maximilian Poe recently changed his last will and testament. He altered the beneficiaries of his estate just 2 days before he was killed. My word! Is it possible the victim somehow feared for his life? Or did the killer discover Poe's plans and murder him before he could change his will? Quite right, Matthew. Speculation gets us nowhere. Further investigation will. Can I suggest we return to the victim's home? Then we are in agreement. Back to the scene of the crime. Let us leave no stone unturned. Cryptic message. Locket. Stained tie, classy cravat. There we are. That appears to be one of the victim's cravats, Matthew. I wonder what that red powder is. We had better collect some to find out. In that locket with Valeria's photo, it seems to have been stomped on. Perhaps you can uncover a clue from that faded area. But this note is most curious, Matthew. I know what you did. The message was written by the victim on his stationery, but to whom, and why had it not been sent? These symbols below the note might give us an answer. You should be able to make quick work of those, Matthew. No doubt, I will. I'm going to take care of everything right now. Easy. Capital effort, collecting that red powder from the victim's cravat. Regretfully, the microscope remains a mystery to me, Matthew. I'll defer to your expertise to find out what we're dealing with. Missed out on the 9. It's makeup. That sample you collected from the victim's cravat is a red cosmetic, or rouge to be more precise. I am certain Viola will not contradict me when I say that many of Concordia's most refined ladies are using it. You are right. This particular shade resembles the color Sheila Black is wearing. A lot can be inferred from finding a woman's makeup on a man's collar, so to speak. We should talk to Miss Black. About her makeup on the victim's cravat. Cravat, however you want to say it. Oh, Marshal Matthew, I was just practicing my penmanship. How can I be of service? Excuse us for being indiscreet, but we found your makeup on the victim's clothing. Good gracious, how embarrassing. Maximilian and I agreed we would forget about that unfortunate incident. I was always encouraging Max to stop moping, so I hired a hansom cab and took him to a ball. When I leaned over to kiss him, he mistook my intentions and pulled away, so I abruptly fell on him. I'm actually surprised he didn't find mothball flakes instead of makeup. I'd taken a dress out of storage especially for the occasion, and it reeked of the things. And it never went further than that? Pardon my boldness, but hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Well, I never! How dare you even suggest such a thing? I would never do anything to harm Maximilian or to jeopardize our friendship. Now get out! Okay. Six two one 99437. Got it. You deciphered a series of numbers, Matthew. Mr. Poe must have been confident the recipient of this note would understand them, but I certainly do not. Although Poe never sent this note, we ought to find out the target of his accusation. Let us get those numbers to Miss Holloway. Nine hours. Let's examine the locket now. To my darling brother Vincent. To my darling brother Vincent. This locket belonged to Vincent Lorenzo. Valeria's brother said he was never here, Matthew. He was clearly lying to us. It's time Mr. Lorenzo started telling us the truth. About his locket. Mr. Lorenzo, you claim you didn't visit your brother-in-law. However, this locket of yours tells a very different story. Eva Bain, I won't deny it. I did see that venomous viper. I took a hansom cab straight to his home the instant I stepped off that ship. What did you have against the victim? There is only one thing responsible for Valeria's death, and it's Maximilian Poe. It was all his fault, no matter what anyone says. All that time she was sick. He never told us what was happening. He only wrote to us after she was gone. He should have looked after her, or sent her home to her family where she belonged. I didn't murder that man, but I am glad he is dead. I'll let the message numbers run its course. I'll get the results in the morning. So for now, this is Matthew. See you then. Alright folks, we've returned. Let's get the results of the message numbers from Evie. Blimey, Matthew, do I have a lot to tell you about those numbers you sent me. This series of digits corresponds to a new library classification system. It was recently developed by a friend of mine, Melvin Dewey. He even asked me to contribute to his research. I was very flattered. The system organizes all publications in any given library by field of study, such as philosophy, science, or in the case of this number, literature. I shan't go into detail, but suffice it to say, these numbers reference a book in the Concordia Public Library, an English novel titled The Monk, written by Matthew Gregory Lewis. It's the rather unsavory tale of a priest whose personal vices lead him to commit murder. A story about a murderous priest, that makes the victim's message all the more foreboding. Could this note have been intended for Father Donovan? Perhaps Mr. Poe knew something darker about his past. This bears further investigation, Matthew. About the victim's accusations. Father Donovan, we must speak to you about a rather inflammatory missive. Maximilian Poe is accusing you of... Saints deliver us. I thought this was all behind me. One afternoon in a hansom cab from his home, Maximilian confronted me saying he'd heard rumors about my past, that I had somehow been involved in criminal activity. And? Was he right? Are you hiding something, Father? You expect me to tell you? My past sins are nobody's business. They are between myself and God. I have been forgiven. If it turns out you condemned Maximilian Poe to a permanent vow of silence, Father, your past sins are very much our business. And let me assure you, the law is not as forgiving as your God. He's cleared. At the heart of every murder are motive and opportunity, Matthew, and our growing list of suspects have both. Father Donovan is a man of the cloth, but the victim knew something about a darker past. Could the Reverend have taken extreme measures to hide it? And Vincent Lorenzo blamed Maximilian Poe for Valeria's death. Perhaps his journey of grief was in fact a voyage of vengeance. If we are to work out which of this motley crew of suspects is the killer, we need more clues. And you are right, Matthew, we know the killer was at the church. Maximilian's murderer may well have sought absolution before God's altar, but there is no rest for the wicked. We mustn't delay. Justice awaits. Yep, cat's equipped. Okay. Offerings box. Victim's ring. 8 seconds.
Remember that robbery in Riverside Park a couple months back where the victim was knocked out and chained to a tree? It was all in the papers. They never found the guy. Read the last paragraph.
Well, the crow slept, the boss lay chained.
Very astute, Matthew. If Maximilian's killer was going to discard evidence here, that offering box would be a good place. By all means, see what you can find. That signet ring. It must be the one the killer stole from the victim. A damning clue. A sample of that black substance should tell us more about Maximilian's murderer. The net is slowly closing in on our killer, Matthew. It's time to pull it shut. Victim's ring. There we are. 8. No time to waste, Matthew. Let us see what Viola can make of this black liquid you found on the victim's ring.
Where would he take her?
I don't know. Actually, believe you. I wouldn't lie.
9 hours. And offerings box.
I take care of them when they're sick. I listen to their problems. I tuck them in at night. I do all the things that a good mother would do, okay? A good mother doesn't let her kids.
8. One could easily be fooled into thinking that gardening glove was simply a donation to the church. If it wasn't for that blood stain, that might be Mr. Poe's blood. If so, this glove was left here by his killer. Viola should look at it to be absolutely certain. 15 hours. I'll see you guys when these two are done. See y'all then. Alright folks, we have returned. Let's get the results of the black liquid. In the old age, black was not counted fair, or if it were, it bore not beauty's name. Viola, we really must know about that black liquid. But now is Black Beauty's successive heir, and Beauty slandered with the... Viola, please, the sample. Sorry, Matthew, that black substance on the victim's ring inspired me to brush up on my Shakespearean sonnets. The liquid contains, among other elements, a combination of gallic and acetic acids. In these concentrations, I determined this sample is black hair dye. Good show, Matthew. Given this hair dye was found on the ring stolen from the victim, we can deduce that regardless of their natural color, the hunt is on for a killer with black hair. Two minutes left. We'll hold here. And the gardening glove just finished? Your hunch was correct, Matthew. The blood type on this glove matches your victim, so you can be certain it was discarded by the killer. This glove would have been easily accessible on the victim's terrace, and it explains why the handles on the murder weapon were spotless. If I may continue, Isaac, the blood on the outside of the glove isn't nearly as important as what I found on the inside. Deep in one of the fingers of the glove, I found a number of blue fibers torn from a piece of cloth. It involved some delicate puzzle work, but when the threads were laid side by side under my microscope, a pattern emerged. These fibers come from a blue paisley garment. The killer shan't be too hard to spot, Matthew. They are wearing blue paisley. Your case against Maximilian's killer is ironclad, Matthew. It's time we brought them to justice with the full force of the law. No, not Audrey Scott. It is none other than Sheila Black. Sheila Black, we are placing you under arrest for the murder of Maximilian Poe. Good heavens! Me? Murder Max? Why on earth would I kill my dearest friend? Marshal Matthew will ask the questions, like how the victim's blood got onto your hansom cab ticket. Hansom cabs? I'm certainly not the only one in Concordia who uses those. What about the gardening glove you wore during the murder? We found a piece of your paisley garment inside it. Gardening gloves? How wretched! I wouldn't dream of soiling my hands with such things. Out with the truth. We know you stole the victim's signet ring. Your black hair dye left a stain on it. Blast it, that damned ring. I wanted to make the whole thing look like a robbery. I admit it, I did kill Max, but he left me no choice. What do you mean he left you no choice? I've loved Max for many years, even before he married Valeria. I was saddened when Valeria died, naturally, but I thought this was my chance. Max and I could finally be together. You can imagine my surprise and humiliation when he refused my advances. Worse still, I learned he was developing an interest in that kitchen hand of his, whatever her name is. Can you imagine? I thought about disposing of her, but murdering that grimy little servant girl would achieve nothing. In time, Max would have fallen for somebody else. It was clear he would never have feelings for me, and if I couldn't have him, nobody could. Now I've had enough drama for one day. I think you should leave. The only place we're going, Miss Black, is escorting you to prison. You are under arrest for the murder of Maximilian Poe. Arresting me? Me, like a common criminal? Well, I never. Not another one of these. Sheila Black, you stand before this court charged with the murder of your closest friend, Maximilian Poe. How do you plead? Not guilty, obviously. My dear Max, being with anyone other than me would be the real injustice. Everyone thinks they understand justice. Perhaps you'd like to sit up here and be the judge. Have you anything to say for yourself? I knew Max better than anyone. He deserves to be with me and no one else. You are not as special as you might think, Miss Black. You're nothing but a murderer, a common criminal. And given your lack of remorse, I am sentencing you to life in prison. Common criminal? Well, I never. Do you have any idea who you're speaking to? I am Sheila Margaret Black, and I am not accustomed to being spoken to thusly. Well, you had better start getting accustomed to it. You're going away for a long time, and I am going home. It is cases like these that truly defy logic, Matthew. Sometimes our closest friend turns out to be our worst enemy. Bontemps is right, Matthew. You can't be too careful who you keep company with nowadays. But top job for closing the case. The commissioner is impressed you handled his specific request so efficiently. That ought to keep him off my back for another day. Good show. Matthew makes a compelling argument, Chief. This case has raised some serious questions about Father Donovan's past. There's no time to rest on our laurels, Matthew. Our job is clearly not finished. I'll see you guys, but first let's take a look at the other ones. Dr. Ezekiel Jones, no black hair. Father Donovan, cleared from the start. Vincent Lorenzo, no blue paisley. Audrey Scott, cleared early. It was Sheila Black. I'll see you guys for A New Beginning 5-6.